God called to Abraham, and Abraham said, "Hineni, here I am." To be honest, this is when it gets a little crazy. Here's the plan. Take your son, who you love, bring him to a place that I will show you, and kill him. Do it for me. Now, I have a son who's 5 years old, and there are times when he's standing with his underwear half on, and we're about to be late for school or wherever it is that we're trying to get to on time, and he has that look on his face with his pouty lip out that says, "You're in my hands now, and we're not going anywhere until I feel like putting this underwear all the way on." It's times like this I just want to hear God calling my name, with directions to a rock on top of Mulholland Drive and very specific instructions on what to do when I get there. But a stern look from my wife, who sees it in my eyes, combined with the threat of taking his snack away, usually prevails. But Abraham decides to do it, doesn't even question it. The Lord is the Lord. Takes Isaac, his son, who he loves, to the mountain. Even makes him carry the wood. As an aside, I should point out it says in the Torah right here, when they get to the mountain, Abraham says to his accompanying servants, "You stay here with the ass. The boy and I will go up the mountain." I only mention this because I know, living in Los Angeles, it's all of our secret desires to be able to say to someone with some kind of legitimate context, "You stay here with the ass." I mean, isn't that what we'd really like to say to those cars on the freeway? All of you, stay here with your asses, as we zoom past them to work, climbing our mountains. But I digress, and I'm skipping a few details here, but it all works out. Angels come at exactly the right moment. When else would angels come? I'd like to be able to tell you they said something like, "Hey, Abraham, where are you going with your son in your hands?" And that was the original inspiration for the Jimi Hendrix song. But that's not what they said, so I won't even mention it. In fact, they just called his name and he said, "Hineni, here I am." And they told him to stop. He had passed the test. Not quite as catchy as Hendrix lyrics, but come on, the boy got to live. And then a substitute sacrifice appeared, like it was some kind of act of God. A ram in the bushes, which is crazy because these days, if you see an animal in the bushes, you call animal control. Unless it's a cat, in which case you start to feed it and pay its veterinary bills because they're so cute. I mean, come on, have you seen the cat videos on the internet? Anyway, that's what I do. But I digress. Here I am, digressing. Hineni. God was pretty impressed with Abraham, told him his descendants would be as many as there are grains of sand at the sea. Now I assume that's a lot. I tried counting the sand one day at the beach, but I got bored when I got to 50. Maybe there's an app for this. God also said Abraham's descendants would be as many as there are stars in the sky. So they left the mountain, and Isaac had a couple of kids, one of whom had 13 kids, 12 of whom were famous, especially the one with the fancy coat, but it's so old-fashioned to leave out the girl, it really was 13 kids, who went on to Egypt and had many more kids, who had more kids, who left and wandered around the desert for 40 years and had more kids, who eventually lived in Israel for a while, having more kids and more kids, who left and went to the old country when it wasn't even old yet. I mean, I think they just called it the country. And they invented the bagel there and had more kids, who had more kids, who came to America, where they had more kids, who had more kids, who came to your city and had more kids, some of whom turned on their computers today and saw me saying these words: "You are the stars in the sky promised to Abraham. You are the promise of the covenant, the reason for the binding of Isaac, the reason we keep this chain going, the reason we bother to come to this room at all. Akedah, Hineni. Here we are.